Buying pot stocks, Jason?
No, man, I'm a futures trader and I'm a meme coin trader in crypto. That's it.
All right, well, I think we've already started here, so let's just make it official. Today, our guest is the one Jason Krutzky. You are is it the head evangelist at TrendSpider? Do I have that right?
Yeah, that's right. Senior evangelist at TrendSpider.
Senior evangelist.
I don't know that there's anybody more senior than me. Maybe Dan, the founder. But
is it with a religious fervor that you spread the gospel of TrendSpider?
You know, when I was first getting into this industry, this role, I come from a very different background than most people, I think, in this world. And so I relied on my friends who were more savvy in tech to tell me, like, what kind of job should I get? Because I literally had no background in it and no experience. And so I relied on them, and I continue to rely on them. So as my role at TrendSpider has changed over the years, so too has the name of my role. And I've kind of leaned on my friends who've been in tech for years to kind of help me with, like, what should I be calling myself? And, you know, most recently when I got the role that I have now that I've had for like a year and a half, I was talking to this one particular friend and he's like, well, that's an evangelist. And I said, all right, cool. I guess that's what I am. And when they offered me the role, they said, what should we call you? And that's what I said.
So what were you doing before TrendSpider?
Let's get into this because you have you hinted at it, Jason. You have a pretty unusual path to Wall Street. So let's get into that because I know a little bit. You and I know each other. We're friends. We hang out socially here in Colorado. But let's let the people know a little bit about you and where you came from.
Yeah, I was a touring musician for many, many years, with varying degrees of success. You know, like we had some years where things were really good and put out
Did you play bass? Were you a bass player?
I was a drummer.
Drummer, that's right.
Yeah, and put out a handful of records, toured not all over the world, but kind of, you know, all over the US, Canada, Europe, released records all over the world. Yeah, we did the thing, you know, like I said, never made any money,
so
but we had a great time.
Were you like trading while you were on the road with your band? Like,
so that's how it started, actually. Interestingly, I started in crypto. Crypto was like kind of my first foray into trading in 2016, 2017. And at that time we were still traveling some. And so like, it was a good way to kill time, you know, Robinhood in the van, 6 hours a day, going from town to town. There's not really anything to do if you're not driving. So
basically, you didn't make any money as a touring musician, but you had a per diem to see the world.
Yeah. It started out at my first years of touring. My per diem was $5 a day when I was like, we started touring when I was 20. So that was quite a while ago. And yeah, per diem to see the world. I mean, that's really what it was all about. We had no ambition as far as like really making money. It was just like write songs, put out records, and travel, play shows, meet people, get to do all the fun stuff.
You know what? That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't take it back. You know, I just I'm behind, I guess, in a lot of ways, like in a lot of ways from relative to other people who started their careers, you know, went to college, pursued a career and just like went that route. I kind of made a hard left turn, I don't know, 4-ish years ago into this world, into trading, finance, whatever.
So crypto was the gateway for you? That's what got you involved?
Yeah, I mean, that was the real gateway. And then my first like proper stock trade, I remember it was summer and there was a hurricane coming and I was like, it was coming for like, I don't remember the hurricane. I don't remember anything, but I knew it was going to be a powerful one. And it was coming into the Gulf, Louisiana area. And at the time, USG, I think, US Gypsum was still like a publicly traded company. I don't think that they are anymore. But at the time, that was my first trade, was in US Gypsum. I think I bought like 3 shares or something, and it was a 20% winner or something like that. It was like a decent trade. And yeah, I was pretty hooked. because I found crypto like at a local top, a cycle top. And so like I was trying to trade long at a cycle top, not so great. I ended up
Yeah.
getting completely run over. And then, post that USG trade, I ended up getting run over for, a couple of years after that too. Like
Talk a little more about your path to, you were just saying before we came on, you're mostly a futures trader now.
Yeah.
So how did you go from, the Robinhood and starting with a little bit of crypto, probably experimenting with individual stocks a lot, to now futures? Like how did that whole evolution take place?
I think probably like the story of most people who are just starting out, I took every misstep that one could possibly take. I was in all of the Pumper Discord chat rooms. I was on StockTwits following the advice of any random Joe Schmo that seemed like he or she knew what they were talking about. I had really no clue. I was just kind of throwing darts and hoping. And then I don't know, I did that for a little while because I didn't pay a ton of attention to it initially. Like I saw it as a thing like, oh, I could make some money doing this. Also, I could be really dangerous doing this, right? It's kind of like gambling and fun. And I had no rules. And then, slowly but surely I started like discovering people. Brian Shannon, Alpha Trends, he was one of the very first people I found. Like I got on Twitter and I found his page somehow. JC was an early follow for me too. Like I found a couple of these guys early on.
Yeah.
And even still, even though these guys taught good practice, I still didn't have good practice. It took me a good couple of years to like actually get ideas together. And then once I got ideas together, it took me a couple more years to kind of like refine and figure out how to even make those ideas work. I struggled for sure with like every possible problem that a trader would struggle with, whether it be holding a loser too long, or like taking too big position size or whatever it was. I think,
Jason, that's a big reason why we wanted to have you on. When Straz and I were kicking around ideas of people we wanted to have on, we know a lot of guys who've been in the business a long time and have all the war stories, and they've got a lot of perspectives that go way back. But we also wanted some people with some fresh perspectives, people who are new to the business, who all the most recent, all the errors you've made are pretty fresh. Like they probably just happened within the last year or so. What's that like? I don't want to make you the representative for new traders, right? But you're still freshly minted, right? You're a freshly minted trader.
Yeah.
What are new traders going through today that might have been different than what I went through 25 years ago when I started, or when Straz started 10 years ago? Like what are some things that you found that you think might be unique to people learning to trade today?
I don't know that there's too much that's unique. I think it's the same problems as always. I think it's there's lots of voices in the room that present an air of, I know exactly what I'm doing and you should just listen to me. And it's very easy to fall into the trap of just following blindly any random person because they have a big Twitter following, or because they have a, successful YouTube page or whatever it might be. I think maybe the biggest problem is probably not starting right out of the gate with like learning how markets work, learning how market internals work, whether it be market structure or, just like having a good understanding of a decent base of indicators, and like truly deeply understanding how the indicators work. And then the real big thing for me, the thing that caused my trading to kind of like elevate, was just screen time. I assume that most people are not in the position that I'm in, which is I have 4 giant screens surrounding me for 8 to 12 hours a day. And on one of them at all times is NQ or ES. And so I am watching, even just if it's out of the corner of my eye, I'm watching all the time. And so, learning that like pattern recognition, learning how to see what's happening,
When you say screen time, Jason, you're specifically talking about tape reading, watching the market.
Yeah. I mean, minute by minute, watching candles form, and like really spending time in it. I think if you want to trade the way that I trade, which is, I trade really small time frames. I still trade with like rules, but I do trade really small time frames. I'm flat at the end of every day. Um, if you want to trade like that, you got to be in it, you have to be living it. You have to be breathing it. You have to be really, really deep. You have to have a deep understanding of where you've come from. What's happened for the past couple of weeks? Like, where are we within the range? Where are we within the current swing? Like, these are all very important things to understand to gauge where you think price might be headed next and to gauge where your levels should be and where you're right, where you're wrong, and all that sort of stuff. And you just can't, I don't think you can learn that really any other way except for sitting there watching for days and
Did you just
weeks
say
and
you're
really
flat at
years.
the end of the day? So you're a
Yeah.
real trader. You're a real
Yeah, I'm
day.
flat every day, end of the day, I'm done. And
Yep.
honestly, if I hit like what I'm trying to hit every day, I'm done.
I
Because
love it.
I've made so many mistakes, dude. So many mistakes. And so I realized like the key for me to walk away every day a normal person and greet my wife as a happy husband when she gets home and feel good when I go to bed in the morning and feel good when I wake up. It required like I need to stick to all of these particular rules that I have in place, and if I don't stick to those rules, then I'm grouchy at night and I'm no fun to be around. And like life is better when I stick to all the rules.
You have
So I just
a daily monetary target in place where you'll say,
ish.
okay, target
I'll say
hit.
I say ish. I'll say ish. And I have a dollar amount in mind. And it's the same dollar amount every day. And certain days I'll have a pretty strong feeling like, ooh, I can totally crush that today. Or other days I'll have the feeling like, oh no, I need to lay off. And past couple of days have felt very I need to lay off. And that's
Mm.
something that I've really struggled to gain. Like that understanding, not coming in every day, guns blazing, pow, 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 I'm ready to go. Like knowing when to gas it and when to use the brake. And just past couple of days have felt very use the brake. But
I want to go back to something you were saying earlier about, being new and, finding voices to follow and, where to learn. Because you're still in that learning phase. I mean, we're all still in the learning phase, but it's probably more acute for you than for me and Straza. Um, when I was asking you before, like differences between learning to trade now and versus when I learned to trade in the late 90s, is I think there's you and I started at two very different extremes. And let me explain. We both were able to learn from reading all the classical trading books, right? Like they were available to you, they were available to me, and I'm sure we both read all of them, or at least as much as we could. That
sure.
was available. But what was different was that in the late 90s when I started, like I I didn't have access to mentors and people who were in the business and people who were in the business for a long time that I could like call up and talk to or text message or in this case Twitter message. I didn't have that, and there was no one to follow other than just like the big people in the newspapers, right? Like Jim Cramer was maybe the first, and this was early days.
Yeah.
Fast forward to today, you have venues like StockTwits and Twitter and Reddit, and you've got so many people who some are experts, some pretend to be experts, but everyone's got an opinion. Everyone thinks their strategy is the best way to trade the markets. And somebody who's new, like you or anybody who's new, comes into this, you fish out of water. They're like, well, who do I listen to? Who do I trust? Like you have an embarrassment of riches of people you could learn from. The struggle for you is figuring out who's legit, who's
Yeah.
worth the time to learn from.
Yeah.
Versus what I had no access to that. I didn't have any access to mentors, and I felt like that hurt me. But
Yeah. Well, so there's two ways I think to like circumnavigate that. And the first way is don't trust verify, right? Like if you come across somebody who is preaching a particular strategy where, I don't know, every time price is 1% below the VWAP, I take a long and look for a reversion trade. use the strategy tester. TrendSpider's got one. Like, run that test on that asset and see if that actually does work. That would be one. That's an approach that I started taking, and I've kind of, this is when I was still trying to figure out how I wanted to trade, what I wanted to do. But like anything that's testable should be tested. Any moving average strategies, I buy when the 8 crosses up on the 21 and prices above both of them. Great. Okay, cool. Like that's very easy to test. You can run it on all kinds of different time frames, on all kinds of different assets. You could find the one where that happens to work the best, and you could trade it until it doesn't work anymore. Obviously, we all know markets change, strategies need to change with the changing markets. The other piece of though is, and what I found to be maybe the most helpful for me was screen time. It was just day in, day out for several years now, every day, all day, watching price action. And I was fortunate enough that I got taught a particular style of trading. I finally found this one particular kind of market structure style of trading. And I didn't trust it at first. Like I truly didn't, because I've been told so many things worked, and didn't know how to go about figuring out if they actually did work, or would have some success doing something and then all of a sudden would get run over and that'd be it.
Where did you, who was it? The market structure thing.
Well, actually, it's one of my colleagues, believe it or not. Yeah, one of my colleagues is just one of the best traders I've ever met in my life. And he kind of walked me through a handful of different processes and then kind of gave me some material to look into. And what's interesting is now over the years, as this style of trading has become very, very popular. It's got lots of different kind of names now, but the ICT thing is like very big. I don't know if guys are familiar with it, but ICT philosophy.
I'm not.
So the ICT philosophy of trading is just market structure, trend, and there are rules around how trend works and how you can kind of develop trade ideas based off what price action has done. And before I came across that style of trading, I was already trading that way. We just weren't calling it that. So it's been kind of, this style of trading has been rebranded by different people over the years. And that's kind of the latest iteration title of it. But yeah, it's just, horizontal levels, looking at price action. But it took me a long time to really like have full belief in it and full confidence in it, because it's very difficult to strategy test, because of just how the reality of that practice is very difficult. So it required screen time. It required me seeing these things over and over and over and over and over again. And all that time also kind of learning about myself and learning about, there is the practice of understanding technical analysis and understanding what's going on the chart. And then there's the practice of understanding what's happening within yourself and how to gauge yourself and how to work with the human emotions that you have within you at all times. And that's a whole story that, of course, our friend Dr. Phil and all these people, there are schools that teach philosophy and mentality and all of this, but like in the hot trade of the day, Tesla's ripping, I just want to be in it, right? Like it's so easy to forget and to like, God, I don't need all that stuff. I just need to be in Tesla and I need to be watching the 3-period SMA and price is riding it. I need to be long. And like, you forget about all the internal stuff. So there's
which aspect of trading have you found kind of more challenging conquer? The market or figuring out yourself?
Yeah. The internal battle royale that is happening 120% of the time, where like, I'm really confident I should be sized up, but also the risk isn't there. So like, I really can't be sized up, even though I'm really confident. How do you measure all this stuff? How do you weigh it all? And that's where the rules-based approach of measuring for R and like understanding what you're willing to sacrifice at all times before you're even getting into a trade.
So that's where that all comes into play. You've been involved in two very unique, let's call it, careers, right? So you were in the music business, you were touring around the world. So let's get to that headspace thing for a second. Where
Yeah,
are you
let's.
learning more about yourself when you're third on the bill in a dive bar in middle Germany where you don't know anybody and there's 50 people in the room and you're like, why am I even here? Are
Yeah.
you learning more about yourself in those situations, or are you learning more about yourself when you're in Tesla calls that have gone completely sideways on you? You're risking way more than you expected. You're about to lose the entire week's worth of profits. Holy shit, your mind's exploding. Like,
Yeah.
which one of those scenarios are you learning more about yourself?
That's tough, man. I go to therapy for this. Um, you know,
That's what we
I
do here.
I
This
really
is
do.
free.
What's that?
This is free.
Free therapy.
Yeah, no, so actually, like, interestingly enough, not trying to share too much, but like I talked to my therapist about this. Music, life as an artist requires you to be 100% giving yourself to the creative spirit, right? Like you need to be open to receive ideas, inspiration. You need to be able to like just on the drop of a dime follow a thought. And that's how I lived for many, many years, like that's why I kind of was slower to get to the rest of my life because I was just kind of like head in the clouds, writing songs, coming up with artwork and, like thinking that the creative spirit was where I needed to be kind of following. And trading is almost for me anyway, trading is the practice of non-emotion. So I go from a very, very like only emotion, following like solely my emotion to following non-emotion. It was a very, very hard cut that I initially made. Fortunately or unfortunately, when my time with the band came to an end, it came to a very, very stark, sharp end. Like, there was no like slow down period. It was just kind of like today we're in a band, tomorrow we're not in a band, and it's over. And I think interestingly, part of my like process, because I spent so many years in that band guy artist role, part of my process for dealing with not being that person anymore was without me really realizing it was like get into something that's so different that I can't even like think about this music stuff for a while. And
Wow.
what's more different? This like and I didn't even it's I total subconscious decision. Like I don't think that I planned it to be that way, but that was the reality. I've definitely come to realize like in order to be successful at trading, I have to be so rigid and so cold emotionally. I just have to be so flat. Like I can't, it has to be just hard. This is where I'm in, this is where I'm out, this is where I'm trying to see price go, and that's it, period. And I have
Well,
to
all
like
these,
pretty
sorry, all these friends that you have from that past life, I don't want to call it a past life because, you're still living here. Like you didn't die, but like from that other world, all these musician friends, I know you still have them, you still stay in contact with them. When you talk to them today, what do you tell them that you're doing with your life now? Like, how do you explain what you do now?
It's kind of interesting. For the first time ever, a guy commented on one of the TrendSpider videos that I made like 3 days ago and said his name's Andy. He's like, "Hey man, I don't know if you remember me, but we met back when you used to tour. I remember the kid. Like,
You
I,
signed my t-shirt, man. It
we
was so cool.
our band stayed with if it's the guy that I think it is, our band stayed with him and his dad. Like they live in Florida, and this was like when we first started touring when I was like 18. Like, it was forever ago. It was before we got a record deal or any of that stuff. So like this is honestly, he's the first like outside world knows me from the band world and then found me here. Um, yeah, I don't know. The truth is I lived in Atlanta my whole life, and then I moved to Colorado 4.5 years ago or so, and COVID hit, band ended, and then I started really getting serious about trading, and I got the job here at TrendSpider,
Do you
and
think do you think you already had that in the back of your mind as like, I would like to get into trading? Or was it more like because of that moment in time, a lot of people were trading, retail trading was blowing up. You already mentioned Robinhood. You kind of just fell into what a lot of people were doing.
well, I don't think I'm too much different from anybody else who is initially starting their trading journey. They see other people making it and they see it as this easy way to potentially make a lot of money, right? I've been pretty much broke my entire life. I'm a guy driving around in a van playing music. Like I didn't have any money. I needed to find some way to catch up, and trading just seemed like, well, if I can figure out how to do it, I probably won't lose that skill. I'll maintain that skill for a long time, and I could even continue doing this years and years past my prime and past, maybe I work for a while and then I get to good enough so I could just trade and you
Did
know.
did your passion grow once you started trading, or you went into it like, I'm going to be a trader, I'm going to figure this thing out, this is what I'm doing now? Or it was like, I'm going to trade for now, see what happens, and then like you got hooked in the process kind of a thing?
I was passionate at the time. When I first started out, I was definitely passionate about it, but I was delusional. I mean, like I had no reason to think that I could be any good. I had no background in it. I had no, like, my parents didn't, I mean, my parents invested, but like they didn't ever talk about it. Like I didn't have anybody teaching me anything about any of this stuff. And then I moved to Colorado, and the first friend I made was an ex hedge fund manager. The next kind of like person that I met was maybe Sean.
Hey,
Like
all right.
Sean and I met really early. I met Brian Shannon really early. Brian Shannon was really the reason why I got the job, was part of the reason I got the job at TrendSpider, because he posted the link to the job description. I didn't even see it. Like I didn't know anything I didn't know what TrendSpider was.
Right.
And coming from the band world, the music industry is, as you can imagine, it's full of big egos and it's very difficult. Everybody's clamoring for the same thing. And so that what that breeds is like a space where it's kind of hard to like get a conversation with the right person at any time. And what I found when I moved to Colorado was like, wow, okay, so my first friend I make is a hedge fund guy. One of the next friends I make is a long-term trader. Seems really nice. I just reached out to him randomly and he was like, yeah, let's meet up. And then I meet Brian Shannon and he was really nice too. And it's like, how is this world? Like these people are people that I've known about for some time and I followed, and I kind of assumed that they're really hard to get in contact with. But they were all very easy to get in contact with. And not only were they easy to get in contact with, they were willing to give me the time of day to like listen, to spend time with me and get to know me. And that was something that I wasn't used to.
It's funny you say that, Jason, because we had Brian on here, a week or two ago, Sean. He's actually complaining about how people never really reach out to him.
Yeah, well, I should reach out to Brian then, shouldn't I? It's been a minute since I've seen him. But I did. I mean, I reached out to him. It's that email is still saved in my TrendSpider account. Like it's the very first email in my TrendSpider account. I emailed Brian and I said, hey man, I got this job. And I got it because, you posted the link. I wouldn't have known about it any other way. And I saw it. I applied. I got the job. So I just want to say thanks. And if you ever want to go get a beer, I owe you a beer. I feel like I owe you a beer. And
no, this is great because, it's interesting what you said about the music business. It's cutthroat. Everybody wants the same thing. It's competitive. I mean, musicians are friendly with each other, but underneath it all, especially the ones that are struggling and trying to make it big, like it's a competition, man. And you're trying to get that. You're trying to get those choice slots. You're trying to get those great gigs. You're trying to get noticed by the record labels.
Yep.
It's a competition. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of like people helping each other out the way that you would like. I know it happens, and there are some bands, there's some great stories of bands helping each other out over the years, but it's not that congenial. Whereas in trading, I feel like I can win, you can win, Straza can win. Like, because I win doesn't mean that you lose, right? So we're all kind of in it together, and we've all been through the ringer. It's fucking hard, no matter what experience you've had, good or bad, it's hard. And we can't we could talk to our spouses about it a little bit, but eventually they don't care. Like, this is not what they do. No. They don't understand. They don't really understand. Your friends don't understand. You can't talk to your Uncle Mike. He doesn't know. Right. So you got to reach out to other people like us who've been in this and been in your shoes and might even be in your shoes right now. Like we are the ones who get you. And I think we all get that. It doesn't matter if we're been trading for 30 years or trading for 3 months. It's like, we all get that, and we all want to interact with each other. And we all want to commiserate together. We want to celebrate together. We want to share ideas together because we all get better, and we all can get better. Even the best traders in the world can still get better, right? So we all benefit from that kind of stuff.
100%. Yeah, like you said, we were always thrilled for our friends to get a great gig that we wanted, but we also really wanted the gig too. And when you don't get it, it's like, I'm stoked you got it, but man,
Is
we would
that
have
where you
we
guys
would have
met
killed it.
at your Colorado Traders happy hour?
What's that?
Is that where you guys met? At the
No, no, no. We met really early into my time being here. I think I just cold reached out to Sean and was like, "Hey, I see you live like relatively close.
Yeah,
I
I think you reached out to me, Jason. You introduced yourself. We said hello. We agreed to get together, and then I told you about the meetup group, and then you started coming to the meetups.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was just interesting how I really had no intention of doing anything having to really do with finance. Like that wasn't I wanted to be in tech. I knew like once I moved here to Colorado, obviously Boulder has a very it's a very tech friendly space. There's a lot of new stuff happening here all the time being developed. And so I just figured, well, I'll probably just get a job somewhere downtown Boulder at some startup or something. I didn't know what it was going to be. But I just had this little side hustle, side passion for trading. And so when I saw the job opportunity, I just figured go after it. Like was saying, my friend who's been in this world for a long time, he's like, you have no experience. You have to be in customer success. And so I said, okay, cool. Well, then I guess I'll do a customer success job of some kind. So that's what I was looking for. And
All right.
that's
Well,
what
look, I'm gonna take a victory lap here for a second. So, excuse me, but your track into where you are now with TrendSpider, I'm gonna take credit for that because here's how. Jay, Jake, excuse me, who worked at TrendSpider, we all know Jake. He didn't know anybody in Boulder or in Colorado. He came to one of my meetups.
Mhm.
That's where he met Brian Shannon. Those
Mhm.
two buddies became friends.
Mhm.
And through Brian Shannon, you learned about the TrendSpider job, and now you're working at TrendSpider. So I don't know. I'm going to take credit for that. That's how it
Yeah.
all happened.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean the truth is Jake pulled my resume out of the trash can. That's the truth. Like my resume did not have the keywords that they were looking for. They ran it through a little whatever scanner and it didn't have the keywords and it got thrown in the trash. And I reached out to every single person at the company I could find and wrote them a letter. And Jake wrote me back. And Jake was like, "You sound cool. I'll let him know." And they fished my resume out of the trash can and then I got the job.
you seem to have done a great job just reaching out to people.
I
This is
mean
something so
that's
many people
from
don't
being
do.
in a band. That's from playing music. Like we had nothing, like
Yeah.
there's a million people trying to get that spot at all times. And so how do you get that spot? Well, you get that spot by kind of like putting yourself out there and trying. I worked at for a good couple of years. I worked at this place called the Tabernacle. It was the
Yeah.
2000 cap Live Nation venue in downtown Atlanta. Beautiful, like a house of blues. If you're familiar with House of Blues, I'm sure
Sure.
I know there's one like in Orlando. And I worked the front door. So I was responsible for holding on to will call once the box office closed.
Mm.
And inside of will call, inside of that envelope was backstage passes and tickets. And yeah, when people wouldn't show up to collect their backstage pass, if it was a band that made sense, I would pocket that thing and I would run back there as soon as the show was over and I'd have demos and I'd be, shaking John Paul Jones's hand or Dave
That's right.
Grohl or whoever, like I would go back there and I would meet whoever I could and say, "I'm Jason. This is my band. I'd love for you to give it a listen. Think you'd like it. Just try and be a nice, friendly guy, young kid out there trying to make it."
A lot of people are intimidated by this exact thing that you're describing, but if you don't, take a shot or if you don't ask, then you don't know a lot of times.
Right.
And even more so, a lot of times you're talking about somebody like Dave Grohl or Brian Shannon reaching out to like one of these figures that might seem larger than life. Like we just talked about somebody like Brian. It's like it really doesn't happen that much.
No.
Almost wishes it would happen more. Like it feels good to give back once you're in a position that these guys get to.
Right.
So I think for young traders, people just starting out, anybody, if like what Jason's saying and his journey kind of sounds like you, reach out to people, talk to
Yeah.
everybody, ask for help, ask for mentorship,
I'm
right?
calling Steve Cohen tomorrow.
Call him. I actually have a friend who
He
works for
ain't
them.
gonna answer.
I've got a friend I could connect you with him. I've got a friend who works with him.
Oh, look at that. See, put it out there in the universe. Anything could happen.
I mean, how on earth do I have a friend that works with Stephen Cohen? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, it really doesn't make any sense. But here we are. Yeah, I think, yeah, honestly, meeting Dave Grohl, like, I met him a couple of times, and then the following times that I met him, he was like, "Oh yeah, I remember that." Like I would remind him, like, "Oh yeah, we met a couple of years ago at them Crooked Vultures. I was the guy in Atlanta." Da, da, da.
Hey, there's
And,
speaking of that, of Dave Grohl and like just meeting him and remembering him. Here in my town, you know where I live, Jason. I live in a small town here in Colorado. There's a little brewery here called Oscar Blues, and there's a picture on the wall of Dave Grohl and the entire band hanging out at that bar.
I bet.
Like, I'm like, it blows my mind. I'm like, how the hell, what are they doing here? Like, it's so crazy.
That guy's cool, man. He shows up in weird places. That's part of his whole bag is like just being that guy that shows up in weird places.
Anyway, sorry, I got us off track there. So, all right, we were joking before we went live here that you trade futures, but you also are a bit of a junkie here. Let's talk about this. Maybe we can talk some sense into you, or maybe you could talk some sense into us. What's going on in this world, this degen world of NFTs and meme coins and all this crazy stuff you're trading?
Well, all right. So a couple of different worlds that you're talking about there. NFTs are one thing. Meme coins are a totally different thing. But also, I guess there is definitely some interconnection there. I mean, it's a fascinating world for sure. It's taken me quite a few years to like wrap my head around all of it. Like I said, in 2017, I found it at the very top and got crushed. And then last cycle, 2020 into 2021, like I understood it, but I still didn't believe in it enough for something. And I saw all the opportunity. I was like right there with all the opportunities sitting at my fingertips, and I didn't take advantage of it. I started learning how the protocols work, just like what's a contract address and how do like what are all these tools that people are using to trade all these weird things. But I still didn't really get it. But then kind of the meme thing took off, whether it was AMC and GME or it was Doge or it was Trump SPAC or whatever. The meme thing started to really make a ton of sense to me because, well, it made a lot of sense when you put it into the crypto world, because crypto is internet native. Then you have these like internet native things that are just the memes, right? And like I see a direct correlation in assigning value to things that are like live on the internet as symbols of whatever. So there's that piece, right? I see that there could be a long-term trajectory for some certain meme items, characters, things. But also, as a trader, I would be remiss if I didn't say like the trading is quite simpler. Like there are no fundamentals at play, right? So all you have are technicals, which really suits my style of trading, because then you're looking at price action stuff. You're using fibs, you're using untested pivots, you're using fair value gaps, you're using these things that like work in futures and work in your normal stuff that you would trade. But because that's all there is, the price action trading is a lot cleaner.
Let me bring us back for 1 second. We're saying a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, we are.
You participate with the meme coins.
Oh yeah.
Right?
All over them.
Meme stocks. And this, like, define this for the average person. Like what lists some meme coins? Well, what would that be?
I mean, my favorite, the ones that I'm most interested are the ones that are Pepe centric. Pepe is a character on the internet. But Pepe to me
sounds so crazy to me. Pepe centric.
I know, but see the thing, like the way that I think about Pepe is I think about Pepe like I think about Kermit or Mickey Mouse, or I'd even go so far as to say like Jesus. Pepe is a character that was born on the internet. It's lived its entire life within internet culture. It's been assigned every single meaning possible. It's been given every hateful, awful meaning. It's been given every loving, kind, beautiful meaning. and it's survived through all of this, and it remains as this character. It's just like a symbol of anything you want it to be. And it's, to me, it's the character of internet culture. It's like it's the antithesis, or not the antithesis, whatever the opposite of antithesis is.
And
It's
and
the
is this
purest expression of internet culture in a character. In a
now the memes are specific to various networks. Do I have that right? So like there's
Every
Solana.
network has meme coins for
So this is
sure.
what? So Pepe is who? Or with
Well,
who?
Pepe, there's a Pepe on ETH. There's a ticker JC's been talking about called BOME, BOME, the
Book of
Book of
Memes.
Meme. That
Uh,
one's on Solana.
oh, but that's
Uh,
Pepe too?
yeah, for sure. And I would argue that that's the best one of all of them,
Wow.
simply because of the creator, the person behind the creation of the coin. Just an old, been around. The guy's name's Dark Farms. He's been around for many years as an NFT maker, like an artist, a Pepe, purely Pepe artist. So all of his art has Pepe in it, and
Yeah.
and he just makes art every day. He's just known in the NFT community as like the central figure of Pepe art. Aside from the guy who created Pepe, Matt Fury, this guy Dark Farms is the guy who's the most known as the Pepe artist on the internet. And so this guy made this coin called BOME. And the way that he launched it was just a really pure, beautiful thing that he did. It was very fair. It was really not, it wasn't pumped in any sort of way. There weren't a bunch of influencers pushing it. It was just very, I'm going to make this thing. It's going to be open for 24 hours. You can send money if you'd like an allocation. And then once he got the allocation, it was like, I think he raised like 6 or 7,000 SOL, which I don't know what the math is on that, but a couple $1 million. And then he passed it over to the community and he said, here's how we could distribute this money. I could put this amount of money in the liquidity pool, this amount of money in tokens to all of you guys. He gave everybody options and he just said, vote. And everybody voted on what was kind of the best option for the coin itself, not for themselves or for, their bags. And you saw what the coin did. Like it went to 1.6 billion in 3 days and it's remained above 1 billion. Well, it pulled back for sure. They all do. But I think if anything is going to stand the chance of honestly being another Doge of this cycle, I think that coin has a really good shot at it.
So there's governance in some of these.
Well,
Talk about voting rights.
Well, no, I mean, all he did, he put up a Twitter poll and he just said, if you sent money, vote and tell me how you think I should allocate these funds.
Wow.
And everybody just said, essentially take all of the money you raised, put that money into the liquidity pool, double that, and give us an equal amount of coins, evenly distributed, was what he did.
You very knowledgeable about these memes. What kind of dark corners of the internet do you have to hang out in to know things about meme coins? Like really,
honestly,
Reddit,
Twitter is dark enough, man. So I'll give you a good example. Here's a good example. A couple weeks ago, Jason Calacanis, that's his name, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so he was tweeting about Solana. He posted a chart of Solana. Solana was trading at like $185, and he was like, oh, he was just saying something about how it was like totally overvalued and like, good luck with this at this price. Like, I'll see you at $70. I don't know. He was saying something kind of outlandish. And if memory serves, I could have this a little bit wrong, but if memory serves, back in 2020, 2021, him and the dudes in All In were like pumping Solana. They were investors in Solana early. And so they made tons of money on Solana back last cycle. And so what happened was everybody who's a Solana fan now, everybody who's long Solana and believes in the chain, came after him. And they said, fuck you, dude. Like, shut the fuck up and get out, like, just leave us alone. And he kind of doubled down. And he was like, he said something about, you guys are going to start trading shit coins again, aren't you? And that was it. Like the second he said that, there was a shit coin called Jason that went online. There are websites now that make launching coins like it takes a minute. It's very, very simple.
Too easy.
Yeah. It's very simple. It's very cheap. And they get voted up. essentially like you can vote with by investing in them. If they reach a certain amount invested, then they get launched to the dexes. And so I've been watching that website, or I've been watching like those websites whenever I see a story starting to unfold on Twitter,
Yeah.
something that has any sort of meme potential.
Yeah.
I'll go straight to those websites and be like just watching for coins being made. So you essentially like you're buying a pre-ICO is what it is, right? They raise $50,000 of capital or whatever it is, and then that coin gets listed. And then if that coin has legs and has a developer that isn't a total jerk and owns a ton of the coin initially,
Yeah.
the coin can take off for as long as the meme it lives. And so then, so the coin takes off, right? Within minutes, it's funded and it's on the dexes and it's ripping. And Jason goes so far as to like post a tweet. He pins this tweet about, I am not associated with any shit coins or meme coins, which is like, dude, you just pump that coin so much more by doing that, right? So the coin pumps, absolutely rips. And then, 6 hours later, completely sells off, loses 90% of its value. And it seems like it's dead. But then during that tweet stream of his that day, he was reaching out to Elon. He was saying, Elon, make this stop. Boo, boo. Like he's complaining to Elon, telling Elon to like get this under control. Like, don't let these people do this. And Elon responds, and it's like a Saturday night, and Elon responds and says, I'll buy your coin. And, the coin absolutely goes parabolic very quickly. And I'm sure some people really, I was at a concert. I had some of it and I was at a concert. I totally missed it. My $50 worth of Jason was worth like 6.5 grand at the top. And I totally missed it.
$50 to 6 grand. We're talking about a matter of hours, days,
minutes,
15 minutes.
Yeah, it was minutes.
$50, 6 grand.
Yeah. 15
Wow.
minutes. Yeah. And
Right,
I mean, that to me is what meme coins are. Like meme coins are a way for you to invest in something that becomes viral on the internet. And the length at which something stays viral kind of helps determine the length at which a meme coin is going to survive. And so I guess that's what brings me back into this idea of like Pepe. Why did Doge do so well? Doge did so well because Elon kept talking about it. He kept promoting it. Like even if he wasn't really saying anything, he put the Doge symbol on Twitter. And he even says why he did it. He said because and I don't know if this is true, but he said he was walking down the line at one of his factories and he heard people talking about Doge and they said, you should say something on the internet about Doge. Like it's the people's coin. And he was like, I just was trying to help my employees, like I knew that my employees were invested in it. And I figured if I say something about it, maybe it'll help them. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. I'm not here to speculate.
I think it's pretty safe to say that you have taken the fork down this road so far that you're not going to be investing in any old economy dividend stocks anytime soon.
Well, honestly, the goal is to build enough of a cushion to be able to do that, essentially, right? Like, I think it's the same old story that we heard with Doge. It's the same old story that we heard with AMC and GME. These are regular people investing in these things because these things have the potential to be crazy and to offer returns that like nothing else can offer. And that's why you get, when coins do well, when you have an AMC, a GME, when you have a Doge, when you have with a dog with hat or a BOEM, like the story is I can take a very small amount of money and turn it into a very big amount of money and I can catch up to everybody else who's like smarter than me, who's richer than me, who's been investing for 20 years. I'm honestly, I'm really not all that different from them. Like I'm seeing this as the same thing. Without talking numbers, like I've made more money in these things than I've made trading futures for sure, like many, many multiples more. Just because being at the right place at the right time, a little bit of luck and a good understanding of how the charts work. Like I'm taking all of those skills that I've learned over my years and just applying them here into an asset that has crazy potential and I know how to trade well, right? Like, but if I can build up enough of a net to throw it into, Berkshire, put $500,000 in Berkshire, I'd do it, like, because I would much rather my money be there than in a meme coin or in a shit coin
You
that
know,
could.
I was making a joke about the dividend yields, but I just remember, Jason, that one of the first times you and I hung out, you and I went on a hike together, and I correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm 90% sure it was you and I that were having this conversation. You were talking about how you were really involved early on in when there was a big craze for yield farming with a lot of these staked coins, right? You were doing a lot of that, right?
Well, I was trying to figure it out. Is
Right.
what it was. I was trying to figure it out, and it was also confusing to me. I mean, it's crazy what they're doing now. Like you can put your soul in your Solana. You can lock it away. For locking it away, they give you some sort of derivative soul. You could take your derivative soul, lock it away somewhere else, and they'll give you something else. You could take that and then lock it away somewhere else, and they'll give you something else.
Yeah.
And you can essentially like create these like yield loops. I mean,
Good thought.
the stuff that some people are doing with DeFi is absurd. I'm scared of it personally. I don't really mess with it.
Because there's no regulations surrounding counterparty risk. So these things will just tumble like a house of cards during bear market cycles, but in bull
Yeah.
markets, they're going to go wild and keep building them up.
Right, because you're not just getting the yield, you're getting like the percentage yield for locking your coins away. You're getting new coins that you can then go and deploy elsewhere in another protocol, lock that away for yield. So you're getting like multiple sets of yield,
Yeah.
and you're just looping this stuff. I know people that are doing this. It's crazy, but
JC posts his NFTs as collateral.
yeah, that's the thing.
Well, Jason, I gotta say, man, I've known you personally for about 4 years now, maybe going on 5. I forget how long it's been, but it's been amazing watching your growth from a total neophyte, not even understanding what buying low and selling high even means,
No.
to where you are now, where like you're starting to sound like an emerging expert in an emerging field. All that tells me, Straza, is that we're going to have Jason on again a couple of years later and see where he's at, because I think we're going to be following a pretty cool trajectory here, Jason. So kudos to you, man. And best of luck to you. And I love calling you a friend and love hanging out with you. And I know we're going to hang out this weekend. So awesome. We have a hard out here coming up, so I'm kind of wrapping things up on us. But any final thoughts, guys? Jason, anything you want to say? Straza, anything you want to wrap up?
Strazzy, you go first.
I'll throw it to you, man. I got through most of the questions that I wanted to ask.
Well done.
All right. Gosh. I mean, I talk to people. I go live on YouTube a couple days a week. And I've talked to customers at TrendSpider for years about, all kinds of things, from how to develop strategies to what indicators do and every possible thing in between. I think if I were to impart any advice on anybody is like quiet the noise and spend time figuring out how things work. Don't let anybody tell you how they work. Figure out how they work on your own. Get a product like TrendSpider and test it yourself, or do the work that you need to do on your own to learn. Don't rely on the people hand feeding you. I think the biggest mistake that I made in my early years of this was just like hoping that I found the right person to follow at any given time. And whoever that person was, perhaps that was some random dude in a random Discord that that had some anon person, or it was some well-known person. Like even the greatest traders in the world, if they post an idea, that idea may work 90% of the time, but you're not them, and you won't be able to necessarily handle things like they can handle things. Like you got to figure out what works for you. You got to understand how it all works. Whatever it is that you're using, if you're using something simple like moving averages, or you're learning about price action and market structure, or you're trading 100 different assets, you got to know what you're doing. You can't rely on anybody else for it, because you're the one pushing the buttons, right?
I think that's great. I think like whatever it is, whoever you follow, you have to make your style and your process your own.
Yeah,
And different things work for different people.
for sure.
Boom. All right, Jason. Thanks, man. This was awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm honored to get to be here. You guys are awesome dudes, and
Thanks, Jason.
I'm honored to be here.